everyone, welcome back to Build. I'm your host, Brittany Jones Cooper, and today I'm sitting down with Jaime King. She stars in the new Netflix horror series Black Summer as a mother torn from her daughter during the most deadly summer of a zombie apocalypse. It's a wild, stressful ride about survival, morality, and what happens when society crumbles. Take a look.
Going on. They don't have a plan for us. Everything is falling apart.
Lost my daughter. I need to go to the stadium.
To get out of here, we gotta make hard decisions.
Is there anywhere that's safe?
Please help me welcome Jaime King.
Hey.
I'm so anxious watching the trailer.
Me too.
Yes, that's so intense. I watched the first episode last night, and I swear the first 10 minutes, which you are in, I was sucked in, and I was also terrified, and I had all these emotions, and I was like, what is happening? It is such a ride.
It's a ride.
Yeah.
For sure.
What was it like when you saw that script for the first time?
When I read the script, I was in Europe at the time, and I immediately got on a plane and flew home because I knew that I was Rose. It wasn't that I had to play her. I knew that I was her. And I truly mean this. It was one of the best scripts I've ever read. It's like you could taste it and touch it and feel it and know it. And there was a cultural competency about it, meaning that as a storyteller, what I care about is that there's windows and mirrors so that every person can see themselves up on screen and have, relate, to know that they're not alone in this world. And I was fascinated because, there was no mention of zombies or anything like that, and it was like this epidemic, and I never knew what was going to you didn't know what was going to happen, and it was right at the time when children were being ripped away from their parents at the border. And I had been working on Hillary's campaign for a very long time, and obviously, really struggling to understand what else I could do besides making so many calls to senators and all this. Like I knew, I was like, this is it. And it was originally written as a love letter. John Himes wrote it as a love letter to his wife, like the strength of what a woman can endure and what she would do for her child, anything. And when he saw what was going on in the country, he was like, that's it. And ultimately it became the story of, if we continue on this path, and it's just not this country, but anywhere, what happens when the fabric of who we are as a people is starting to be torn apart, and you're a refugee, and you're completely ill-equipped to handle it. And so the government shut down, there's no internet, there's nothing. And so when you jump into this story, you're jumping into it with us. And I kept asking him questions. I was like, how long has this been going on? We don't know. I'm like, well, I need to know. I'm the actor. Like, well, how, we don't know. And everything just had to be,
And that's how you feel watching it. You're lost and you're with them because it starts off and you're not quite sure what happened, but everybody's panicking. And you feel panicked too because you're like, what would I be doing in that moment? I don't know.
Yes.
And that's why you say the mirrors and the windows in. And I love the series because it shows different perspectives. So it's not just
Exactly.
your perspective, it's different people going through traumas, even one of the zombies' perspectives. You sort of get to see it from all these different angles. So like you said, you can kind of find something to hold on to.
Yes, and that was something that was really important. You know, the amount of study that went into when people are getting sick. That Ashley Levy, who we had basically a full female special effects team, and she spent 3 months working on this and studied MRSA and Ebola, and so it attacks. The way that it attacks the lymphatic system, everything that you see actually happens, right? So it's real. That's what happens, and we were so when I was producing and working on it with my with John and with everyone else, it's just the unlearning of things that everybody had to be. Not know what to do. You don't know what to do, and that we never jump forward or backwards in time, right? You're just in it. And coming from Nebraska, I grew up shooting guns every Sunday. But the difference is that my father never believed in killing anything. So we shot cans at the river, and I'd be holding a gun, and they're like, "You look like a soldier. You've never held a gun before, like you cannot carry." It's so interesting because I had to do so much, studying movement, coaching, and all of these things that are really important, to actually unlearn the strengths that I had so that I could start at a baseline. And every person in it, like when she gets sick, you feel for her. Because she doesn't know what's happening, and there's no superpower. And I think it's a really brilliant way of blending all of these different things to tell the truth, and everybody can get something that they want from it. Absolutely. So you're entertained and you can't breathe, and at the same time, it conjures up something that we need right now, because you look at what people are watching, and people are watching these kinds of things because we need these chemicals dumped into our brain because there's just too much overwhelm, like every day for us. Yeah. It's too much.
Yeah. And let's talk about Rose, because you said that as soon as you read her, that you wanted to become her, you wanted to play her. Who is she in this series? What is sort of her role in this?
Rose, how do I say this? Spoilers.
Yeah. That's why I'm having you do it and not me.
Essentially, Rose is this is not, it's Rose's story. Yeah. She's the through line, but there's, like we discussed, everyone's story, because that's really important. But Rose is torn away from her daughter and loses everything in the first 10 minutes and is thrust on this journey and will do whatever it takes to get to her child at a checkpoint. And she doesn't even know what's at the checkpoint, So that is the story. Mm-hmm. And the story is something interesting, because when I was on set, all of a sudden it struck me. For so long, I've been taught, or we're taught as storytellers, that you walk through a fire and then you become extraordinary. And even as people were like, "Oh, well, we changed and now I'm so much stronger." And I realized, it's not that we change. It's just that everything that's extraordinary has always been inside of us. It's just we haven't had to dig down to that place to access it. And that was like a mind-blowing thing.
And I think as, Rose is a mother, you're a mother, there's an incredible amount of strength in motherhood of not knowing you can do something until you do it for your child, and
yes.
You see that with her. And there's this incredible amount of vulnerability, especially in you open it out so strong when she's hugging that soldier, and she's just in this moment where it just needs some comfort because she knows she's gonna have to start this journey.
That was an interesting moment because Justin Chukari, he and I had never met. Oh. So when you see that take, there was no rehearsal. Mm-hmm. We had not met. They rolled camera. And I didn't, he didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I just fell into his arms. And you can see he tries to pull away from me. And I just kept clinging on. And we talked about it after, and I was like, you thought that your character wouldn't do that. So you would try and pull away. And he's like, yeah, I didn't know. And he's like, but then we like melted into one another. And that's human behavior. That's what actually happens. And same thing with my husband and my daughter. You know, none of us got to meet beforehand. And so everything that you see is actually happening in the moment. And as a mother, I think I was so deeply vulnerable because my child, I lost many of my pregnancies, and my son Leo Thames crashed at birth, and I didn't get to see his face, and they took him, and I didn't know if he was gonna come back to life. And he had a serious heart defect called transposition of the great arteries, and I just hear he's crashing, and they like ran out of the room, and I'm having to get stitched up because they had to all of this stuff, and the nurse said. She said, you need to be on a 72-hour epidural. And I said, but I need to go see my child. I need to see my child. Is he alive? Will you tell me, is he alive? And she said, ma'am, and I said, I need to go see she's like, that is illegal. Unless you cannot walk, it is illegal. We cannot let you. You just had a major operation. And I looked to my doctor, and he went like that. And I said, I'm fine. And she said, no, I don't think you understand. You're not fine. This was not just a C-section. And I was like, I'm fine. And I got up off of a surgical table, and I walked into this NICU. And it was legitimately, looking back, like a scene in the movie. And it makes me really emotional, watching it, because when I walked in, everybody went pale. And my child was barely alive. And I just remember saying something like, I don't know what you believe in, but if you could just pray with me. And I closed my eyes, and I prayed, and I started singing. I've actually never told anybody this part. I think it was like, I just started singing, like, You Are My Sunshine or something. And then I couldn't hear anything, and then I just heard, like, he's stable. And then people crying, and I open up my eyes, and I hear the beeps of the machine, and then my body, that's when I went into seizures, right? Because I had no medication, nothing. And that's when I realized there's nothing that I would not do or cannot do for my child. And, cut to, an hour and a half later, and she's like, we have to do this thing, and a 72-hour epidural. And I was like, my child is in the ICU, and I need to go breastfeed him, and I need to give him a reason to stay here on this planet. I need him to know who his mother is, because I just knew inside of me that if I couldn't hold him and touch him, and they were going to race him into an open heart surgery, but some part of me knew that he had already left, that I needed him to stay. And I did that every 2.5 hours. I'd sit up, I'd walk, go to the other building, up to the floor, breastfeed my child with 67 lines in him. And, when you go through something like that, it forever changes you. And when you see the strength and the resilience of human beings, it's so powerful. And yes, I could have done this before, but not like this. And when you look at Mustafa, all the actors, are basically unknown actors, right? And Mustafa, who's deaf, he was a Syrian refugee. And he had been living in a Syrian refugee camp for 5 years with his siblings, and came to Canada like a year before this shot, and got cast, had never acted. And working with him and seeing all of this joy, and I'm like, my God. We had an interpreter for the interpreter, and there was so much joy in him. And he had seen things that I couldn't even possibly imagine. And so it's just very fascinating to see and be able to put that up there.
You obviously had a lot of reserves of emotional strength to bring to this role with that story you just told, and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What about the physicality of the role? Because it's intense from jump, you're running, you're jumping, and I know you had an injury on set, so how did you prep for that?
Well, it was very run and gun. They're like, oh, you know the scene where I'm running up the fence.
Yes.
They're like,
Was that
so
you?
can you come up and get wired? Like get and I was like, for sound, sure, yeah. And they're like, no, we need to put you on wires. And I was like, for what? And they're like, you're gonna run up the fence and da da da. And I'm like, well, thank God. Thank God I've done this a lot because there was no stunt rehearsal, nothing. So my natural strength actually came into play, but it was like that moment to moment to moment to moment.
You jumped up that's you?
Yeah.
You jumped up that fence so fast. No joke, I thought that was like a body double.
Holding on, and then it just like for dear life, and then the wires were all crooked and weird, and I was like, just get the wires off. I would rather hang on to this prop fence. It's like because I wanted to. So it's a wild ride.
Yeah, absolutely. And
we never stop. Like we just
nonstop.
We walk, run, walk, run, the whole time.
After going through all of that, emotionally, physically, do you think that when the apocalypse comes, you will be prepared?
I can't curse, but
Yes, you can.
fuck yes. Yes.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I think I'd be the first to go.
No, girl.
I have no life skills anymore. I'm also from Nebraska.
I know you
and
are.
So
but you do have.
So we grew up like outside and climbing, and there's a rough and tumbleness that comes
and
with
kindness, and it's like, oh, you need a cup of sugar. Here's a cup of sugar. Like,
right,
it's
but then you
hello.
move to New York and you order your food and you send out your laundry and you're kind of broken.
Girl, then try and go to LA. Okay.
Yeah.
And LA is a really nice place, but I went from Omaha to here when I was 14. And then I was very snooty about it. I was like, I'm not moving to Los Angeles. They have no swag there. They have no, I want to be, they didn't take the train. Everybody's classes and their fancy cars and, and so, and it's true, by the way. And there's really great people. It's an amazing place. I love California. But it's the level of, are you equipped to handle something? They'd be like, who
can I call?
Where's my executive assistant? No, not everyone's like that. There's really good people there. I had to make some kind of joke there.
Well, then I'll hit you up when it comes because I'm not.
You got it. Girl,
I'll just walk towards
because
Nebraska.
Because when it's in you, it's in you.
That's true.
Right? When I went back to Nebraska, I went into the grocery store to get something, and I was looking this way, and a woman was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And I literally jumped like she was gonna pull out a gun, and I was like, huh? What? And she's like, oh, my cart gently tapped yours, and I'm really sorry. And I was like, what has happened to me? Do you know what I mean? Because when I first moved to LA, people kept saying I was too nice. You're too kind. You're too nice. What do you like? And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I had to completely try and learn how to adapt. And I'm like, why am I trying to change who I am so that you guys can feel comfortable about me actually paying attention and listening to you? Because we're just raised differently, and you just think only LA or New York exists, and we're the flyover states. But y'all, we're the ones that are buying the movie tickets and growing your food. It's just an interesting perspective.
I'm right there with you. I felt like I had to unbreak a lot of things, and then I actually leaned into them. And I think it's been one of the best parts of just I'm proud to be from Nebraska, and these are the things I can offer you, and they're unique. So shout out to Nebraska, guys.
Shout out.
So there, as we discussed, there's so many themes. This is so much more than a zombie movie or series. I mean, I think the issues of morality to me jump out the most because you see these people and you would imagine maybe they would find community, but it really ends up being everybody's just trying to survive, and what kind of things will you do to do that?
That's exactly it. And what I love about this show is that what keeps people going, or what people sacrifice, it's is it your hubris? Mm-hmm. Is it the need are you someone that is a cheat or a liar? Like, and that's not who you are, but what do you default to when things are really crashing? And for Rose, it's her humanity. And there were many times on set that we would switch it in the, like, literally right in the moment where she was not partaking in things that she was supposed to, because ultimately it's her humanity that makes her the leader. And it's beyond, and it's not just like some, there's all this symbolism, and we talk about morality, but at the same time, it's like a really fun ride. Like, you're so invested in it. So that's why I'm really proud of it, because as someone that loves genre and as someone that loves drama, as someone that loves all of it, it's like there's something for everybody in there, and we're not being on like a high horse saying like, oh, feel all these things. We don't like shove things, or we're not trying to manipulate emotions. We came here to entertain you. We came here to entertain you and give you everything, and people gave everything on this set.
Right. Including the cameraman. The camera work,
Yes.
I think, is exceptional.
Thank you.
And does such
They
a
were
great
so
work at
amazing.
building that tension and swooping really fast and zooming in and not being where the action is and then zooming to the action, and you're just always sort of on the edge of your seat. I was severely anxious the entire time I was watching. In a good way, though, in an entertaining way.
Yeah. The camera, we would rehearse like a play, and then we'd put camera up and rehearse, because we do so many long takes. And not because we want to be fancy to do long takes, but because it serves the story of just always being in it and not trying to cut away. So the physicality, the camera crew were so amazing. They did The Revenant, Fargo, like they're amazing, amazing guys, and amazing women that worked on this, and that holds that tension, right? And one thing that people don't know, we did an homage to all of like our favorite films with each episode. So each one, and it never breaks its through line though. So like the second one is like Dune. The third one is like Lord of the Flies. So it's like one of these like, but it's still this, it's not a gimmick. It's our love letter to what we do.
What about the first episode?
What do you think? I don't want to say it.
Oh, I don't know the genre very well. I'm not the best judge.
It goes from everything. We do a heist one.
Oh.
We do it's all kinds.
All right, I'll think about it. I'll think
Yeah.
about it while we go to questions.
Okay.
Who do we have first?
Gotcha. Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering how you go about kind of finding the more human aspects to both ground your character and your story within when you're playing to more of like a genre-bound series.
That's a good question. For like I said, with the way that the script read, or even if it is genre, right? The way that I was trained, which is through the method, and my teacher Elizabeth Kemp, who passed away last year, through DreamWork, right? And ultimately, by looking into the places inside of myself, like what parts of Jamie are in Rose, right? Because if you're relying solely on your imagination or acting, like acting is my worst nightmare, right? It has to be grounded and rooted in truth. But it like, if you're doing so, like when Sin City, when it's all green screen and you have one actor and a couple of props, you are relying on imagination. But if you build your foundation and merging who you are and who the character is, and do all that prep work, then you're free in it. And you have to understand like what the star is, right? So with Sin City, it's like this very big move, like, you carry your body a different way. You use, I vocal lessons to drop my octaves. With this, it was, how does my sister carry her body? What does that kind of thing look like? With Pearl Harbor, with that movie, when you're doing a huge movie like that the movie is the star, and I was to bring the truth. And so for me, I looked at like that character is, Betty is is the innocence of America. She's the young one, the excited one, the one that's patriotic, that comes, and then with the higher the stakes, the more meaning that's put into it, the more dramatic it feels when something hits. So it's understanding the tone and having reverence for all genres, and bottom line, making it real and making it true. And whatever it is that you got to do that, that's what you do.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next question.
Hi.
Hi.
This is an online question. So they wanted to ask, because you took on such a difficult role after the work week, was it difficult for you to get out of that character?
That's a very good question. My kids have always been raised on set, and at the end, I had to fly them back because they were starting school, and I had never been apart from them for over 5 days, and one of my best friends was up, and we were watching Hannah Gadsby's show. I'd watch that over and over, Queer Eye, like things I love, like that wouldn't take me out of character but would relax me. And my heart started, bottom line, I had like a serious panic attack, but I didn't want him to know. And I remember running out onto the front lawn of the house that I was staying in Calgary, and I literally got down on my knees and I prayed, because I thought I was going to die. And I thought that was it. And I had to get so clear that I am not Rose. My children are safe. But because I was separated from my children and Rose was separated from her children, I couldn't at that point, because this was like we were finishing the last 2 episodes, I couldn't pull away. And so because I was not just starring in it, but producing it, and overseeing so many things and so deeply involved, there was never a break. And Elizabeth said something to me that I actually said to my girlfriend, who just came off of a really big, intense, long shoot, and she said, remember to be gentle with yourself, because however long that it takes you to get into character and to film and be there, you have to allow yourself that time to come out of it. And it's really trippy, because it wasn't like that when I was younger. It's just like it gets to a point in your craft where you work really hard and you study and you keep studying and you're disciplined, and it just happens. And so it's not like I'm trying to be like, oh, I'm this method, da da da. That is the measure of the work that I've done, and that's where I want it to be. Where between action and cut, I literally cannot remember what happens. But that's my job. I'm there to be of service for the audience, for you guys. I'm here to be of service. That's it. It's interesting, because I don't think I've watched maybe like 70% of what I've done, because for me, it's just about telling the story, because film and music and art got me through my life, And so, yeah, it's really, I had a lot of anxiety even flying here, because I was like, so it's interesting.
And then do you just do meditation, or like what kind of self-care is involved in sort of leveling
Moving
out?
my body, moving my body is a big one for me. So going for a walk, yoga, meditation's huge. I meditate as much as I can, and I have since I was about 19. And honestly, this might sound nuts, but when they say you need to get another perspective, another direction, I'll literally turn my body. I'm not joking. And by the way, this works. Yeah. And I'm looking right there at the Supreme sticker. I love Supreme.
Who doesn't?
Right, like back in the day. No, but by doing that, it changes the synapses in your brain. So it changes your focus. It actually changes your focus. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I think a lot of people right now are living in a world where we're never enough. We can never get enough stuff done. There's no boundaries anymore. The work is never complete. You know, it's like communicate. We have to be on all the time for all these people. People are living, you know, a museum of a life that's not real. You know, and I think we need to get back down to this. You know, and a simple thing like doing that has like really changed the game for me. I'll do whatever I have to, you know, to get back into my loving into alignment, you know, because that's where it's at for me.
Well, I can tell with the passion that you speak about this series with how much of yourself you put into it. And like I said, the first 10 minutes, if you watch it, you can't turn it off because you want to see what happens to Rose and you're rooting for her against all odds. So thank you for pouring everything into this role. And if you guys want to check out Black Summer, it is streaming now on Netflix. Give it up for Jaime King.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much.